Hello everyone, TimeToGrind here, and today I wanted to talk about the hero shooter genre. And now, the hero shooter genre has existed for quite a while. The original Team Fortress mod came out in 1999, that's like 18 years ago. So it's existed for a while, and we kind of see it here and there, with TF2 and Dirty Bomb, but Overwatch clearly is what, kind of made the genre extremely popular to the point where everyone is just trying to make the next great hero shooter. And, they're all trying to become huge eSports and just all that good stuff, but all they end up doing is just copying what's already been done before. The great thing about Overwatch, and one of the main reasons it's super popular, was, although it was influenced by TF2, it's just so original in terms of the characters, the gameplay, the lore, all that stuff. And that's one of the same reasons a lot of people really like Rainbow Six Siege. It's just extremely unique and original, and it hasn't really been done before in the way that it's done in Rainbow Six. However, in my opinion, the hero shooter genre can be split up into two very different categories. Obviously, they share similarities and differences and stuff like that, but I think you can split them up into two main categories. The first I'd call something like, the team comp hero shooter, or, mobile-like hero shooters, or whatever you want to call it, but just something along those lines, meaning making a good team composition is extremely vital. So in Overwatch, if your team has 6 DPS heroes and the enemy team has, a good old 2 DPSs, 2 tanks, 2 supports, you're probably not going to do very well just right off the bat. You're at a disadvantage before the game has even started. The other category I'd call something along the lines of, light variation hero shooters or tame hero shooters or something like that. But in that category, I'd kind of put games like Rainbow Six Siege. And although team compositions are, pretty important in Rainbow Six, it's just performing well with each character is way more important. All the characters in Rainbow Six are humans with, kind of similar guns. They all just have a unique gadget or two, and, they have slightly different guns. But you don't have, one character that can just wall ride on everything and, he can boot people away and he heals everyone near him, and then you have another one that has like a hook. There's not a huge amount of variance within the heroes. They're just slightly different, and they kind of sometimes fill slightly different roles. And trying to queue into, say, a ranked game of Overwatch by yourself or, another person or two, many times you're going to experience all your teammates just insta-picking DPS characters or no one wanting to play a support. And if you've tried to play ranked games like, Overwatch or stuff like that, you've definitely experienced this before, 100%. I've never met anyone that hasn't had this problem, with those type of games. And it's just before the game can even start, you already feel like you're going to lose. Whereas in Rainbow Six Siege, there isn't much of that. You might get mad at someone picking Fuse on a hostage map because he's going to kill the hostage, but overall it's more about your performance in the game versus out of the game before it even starts. And there is strategy in Rainbow Six Siege. There's a ton of it, having to know which kind of part of the house or building you want to defend, or as an attacker, where do you want to spawn on the map, because there's 4 different spawns and stuff like that. And say you're playing on this part of the map that has a garage, you probably want to pick a character like Bandit, so he can prevent the people from breaking those garage doors even if you barricade them. And there's still a lot of strategy that comes out of the game, before the game even starts. There's still a lot of strategy in that. It's just a lot of the times before that happens, you don't already feel like you've lost. Say you even are playing a map that has a garage and no one picks Bandit or something like that. Although that sucks, you still don't feel as defeated as in if you're trying to play Overwatch, ranked, and everyone just insta-picks a DPS and you have no supports or anything like that. Because overall, in my opinion, Rainbow Six Siege, it matters a little bit more, each individual person matters more about how good they do in the game. It's just something I've kind of realized over playing both games for a very long time. And I'm not saying games like Overwatch are objectively worse than games like Rainbow Six or anything like that, but for me personally, I like playing games where your individual performance matters a lot more. It's one of the main reasons that I, was super big into CSGO, because even if your team is garbage and the enemy team is pretty good, if you are amazing, you can easily carry your team. There's times where me and my friend, we're pretty good at the rank we were at. Obviously, we were not the best at all, but, we were good at where we were improving in the ranks, and we'd have some games where our teammates were awful, and, overall, we could still potentially carry the game, even if, our teammates aren't doing that well, if we perform amazing. And it doesn't really feel that way in Overwatch, and I was talking to someone, recently about this kind of stuff, but back when I did play Overwatch and, semi-competitively, and we entered in like a tournament or two, we had one of my friends, he was our support player. He was one of our support players, and at the time, you only picked Lucio. That was the only support player, or the only support that was really, really great. And so he was only picking Lucio because that was the only good support at that time. And he was a great Lucio. He always did amazing. And, he always did... there were some things he might have been able to improve. Maybe, say, working on the wall jump, wall riding and stuff like that. Or, maybe getting a little better at aiming the actual gun itself. But overall, he was a spectacular Lucio. Now, the problem is, for him, is... every time we lost the game, because he was just picking Lucio every game, because he's our support player, that's the best support, you know how it goes. But there were times where we would lose the game, terribly. Like, we would just get stumped, and like, to him, he doesn't really know what he can do to improve, because he performed his best, but like, as a support player, obviously, you can't carry the team as much as the DPS player. So I was a DPS player when I played Overwatch. Always played the hit scan characters or, stuff like that. And, when we lost the game, a lot of the times I could be, I wasn't performing that very, I wasn't performing very well just because I can tell. I know whether I'm getting kills or not. It's kind of obvious. But as a Lucio player, you're kind of doing the same thing every single game. And if you lose or you get stomped, it's kind of hard to tell what you did wrong. And just as a support, you're not really... you're obviously very important. You need supports on your team, but you don't feel like you're doing that much, because whether you're doing the same thing and it doesn't feel like it has too much of an impact on whether you win or not. It seems like it's all up to the DPS players, and you don't really matter. And kind of the same for tanks, but a lot less. But it just kind of, in Rainbow Six, there's nothing like that, because in Rainbow Six, everyone feels impactful, and there's no one like a support in Overwatch that you don't really feel like you're contributing much to the game. But going back to talking about, team communication and team compositions and stuff like that, team communication is still needed in Rainbow Six, just like Overwatch. And in fact, it's extremely important. It's probably, one of the biggest competitive games where communication means the most, because even hearing someone's footsteps and letting one of your teammates know that you think you hear someone, that's super important. But just in Rainbow Six, you don't have the terrible feeling of wanting to just play a DPS, but everyone else already insta-picked a DPS. So you're like, well, I guess I'll pick a support and stuff like that. And the thing is games like Overwatch can be really awesome, though. Thinking of all the different synergies and team comps that can work can be really fun, especially when you have a 6-stack. It's just a lot of the time, for me at least, you could just, you have incompetent teammates so many times, and the games already feel, super frustrating before they even start because of stupid things like team compositions and stuff like that. And that's one of the main reasons I think I've finally come to realize that I, kind of stopped enjoying Overwatch as much as I did, because it just frustrated me so much. But, overall, that's all I really had to say about, hero shooters. I just kind of wanted to talk about them and the main difference between a lot of hero shooters, in my opinion anyways, and why I like, one type over the other. But if you guys have any other opinions, I love hearing them in the comments down below, like always. If you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more content every Wednesday and Sunday. But yeah, like always, guys, see you next time.